1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Both of you good? Yep.
1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1.
Good afternoon. My name is Kristen Gannon. I'm with the Michigan Department of Corrections. I'm pleased to be here today with our law enforcement partners here in Detroit to discuss the ongoing Operation Safe Neighborhood initiative. Operation Safe Neighborhood is a statewide effort with the goal of reducing crime and gun violence in our communities. MDOC parole and probation agents have worked with local law enforcement agencies around the state excuse me, to conduct compliance checks on our probationers and parolees who are prohibited legally from carrying weapons. With Operation Safe Neighborhood, we are completing compliance checks in a much more efficient manner. We are targeting and looking at who we are doing these compliance checks on. We are doing them on the people that are at high risk for recidivism. We are doing it on those who have been found to be already in possession of weapons and those who we believe may be in possession of weapons. This has allowed us to really target and ensure that we are utilizing our resources effectively and efficiently with law enforcement and with our Department of Corrections staff. This has resulted in approximately 400 weapons that have been taken off the street statewide. So a significant number of weapons that have been taken off and reduce the amount of victims we have. There are approximately 40,000 plus probationers and parolees in the state of Michigan with over 1,000 agents statewide. We have also, in the last 10 years, embedded agents within our local law enforcement agencies as well as federal partners, and specifically we have embedded agents in every precinct in the city of Detroit. This has made a drastic difference in the amount that we're able to dialogue back and forth. We can immediately translate information, and we're accessible. We appreciate the efforts made by our staff to do this work in cooperation with law enforcement to ensure public safety in our communities in the state of Michigan. Our staff and law enforcement never know what they might be facing when they're going into these homes to do compliance checks on people we believe may have weapons in those homes. So it's due to their dedication and diligence and commitment to safety that this work is being done. Our field agents are a critical piece in creating communities that are safe. We appreciate all that they're doing and the commitment they have to work with law enforcement. I'm now going to turn it over to Detroit Police Chief White.
Thank you very much. Thank you and good afternoon. I've always emphasized the importance of collaboration between law enforcement agencies. It is because of this partnership with local, state, and federal law enforcement we are able to effectively track those who violate the law and victimize our community. We work side by side with a number of agencies, as all of you know, Wayne State Police Department, the Michigan State Police, and other agencies around the state. We still have room for improvement, but we're excited about some of the accomplishments that we have had. Our collaboration with the state has been a successful one. Operation Safe Neighborhoods, which is an automated alert system that streamlines communication between agencies, promises to be a very, very effective tool for us in law enforcement. Our decades-long partnership with the Michigan Department of Corrections is extremely effective and important to our law enforcement mission. Having those embedded agents at our precincts is a powerful tool. Being able to dialogue with those who are out on probation or parole is one of the tools that we've used effectively and often. Our law enforcement partners are an invaluable tool for us, and we're always looking for opportunities to improve. And I'm excited to see this program be in the Detroit Police Department, knowing that it's already been an effective tool and it promises to expand and provide even more of an opportunity for us to reduce victims in our community. Another valuable aspect of it is getting those illegal weapons out of the hands of those who should not have them in the first place, preventing the opportunity for those weapons to end up in the hands of children that we've seen hurt themselves with those weapons, and also those folks who use weapons to resolve relatively simple disputes, making life-changing decisions impulsively. So super excited, very happy to have the cooperation and collaboration, and could not be more proud of the men and women of the Detroit Police Department and the Michigan Department of Corrections for this partnership. At this time, I'd like to bring up the Honorable Mayor Duggan.
Well, thank you, Chief and Governor. I just want to say thank you to you and the State Department of Corrections. Heidi Washington, the State Corrections Director, has been in monthly meetings herself. And the violence that we're facing in this city and this country is just heartbreaking. The incidents you've just seen, people who did nothing other than go into a gas station to get snacks, being locked in and shot over a dispute over $3. A nurse who delivered care at my former place at Detroit Medical Center being murdered. And every time we see one of these cases, we lose something of ourselves. But the truth is that in this city, in this country, we are rebuilding a criminal justice system that shut down during COVID. There's no mystery as to why the violence has soared across America. For 3 years, the courts were shut down because you couldn't put 12 jurors in a room. And that meant people who were charged 2 and 3 years ago of very serious crimes have yet to go to trial. And when the jail started to get crowded and have COVID, folks got released from jail who shouldn't have been released. Judges started to put low bonds on people that they otherwise would not have done. Probation and parole officers stopped meeting face-to-face with probationers and parolees, and people in this country felt like they could carry weapons illegally with no consequence because the criminal justice system wasn't working. What I've seen in the last few months is extraordinarily encouraging. You've seen Dawn Eisen in the U.S. Attorney's Office partner with us in a way that we have not had that level of federal support before. The Circuit Court has dramatically cut down the gun docket backlog. Judge Pat Frizard and at 36th District Court Judge Bill McConicle dramatically have reduced the backlog. I know Chief White is very pleased about the fact that on January he had 300 officer vacancies. Today he has 200. By September he's going to have 100. And by the end of the year we're going to be fully staffed because of the $10,000 raises, and we're going to be at full force. But the key to probation and parole is everybody doesn't need to be locked up. But when you're on parole or probation, you've got rules you have to follow. During COVID, those rules were not being enforced. And what the governor has done and what the Department of Corrections has done has been phenomenal. They've got 50 cases a week that between the county executive and the sheriff and the police department, we're identifying people on probation and parole that are at risk for a gun crime. They're going into their homes. They're doing safety checks. They're making sure people are where they're supposed to be and there's not guns on the premises. Probation and parole is meaning something again. And so we're ultimately going to be tested not by the promises that we make, but by what you see happen this summer. If the system works the way it should, we should see significant reductions in gun violence this summer. And with the partnerships that we're having here, I think there's a real chance. Chief White talks about the fact that he likes being a police chief who is dealing with a mayor who is a prosecutor. You don't have to explain anything to me. I understand how the law enforcement system works. And when we go to Governor Whitmer, I have the same benefit. We have a governor who was a prosecutor. You don't have to explain anything about crime or law enforcement to her. When we talk to her about probation and parole and the illegal weapons, she understands exactly the importance. She committed the resources to it. I'm convinced it's going to make a significant difference this summer, and I'm really pleased with the progress that we're already seeing with that. I want to turn it over to my partner, the governor.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Kristen. Really appreciate you representing the department here. And none of this work is possible if we aren't truly focused on partnership and focusing on keeping people safe. So today we wanted to give you a bit of an update on the progress that we have made through Operation Safe Neighborhoods, our initiative to get illegal guns away from criminals and to help protect public safety. And I can't start without saying thank you to the men and women standing behind me who are on the front line every single day. To date, police officers have conducted nearly 3,400 check-ins and taken 389 illegal firearms. During these sweeps, they also recovered illegal drugs and ammunition. As we enter the summer, when historical trends suggest that gun violence increases, initiatives like this one, like Operation Safe Neighborhoods, are critical. We know that nearly 1 in 3 violent crimes reported in the state involve a firearm, and that guns are the #1 killer of our kids and young people in this country, and only in this country. Earlier this year, I signed universal background checks and safe storage requirements into law, some common sense gun safety measures that are overwhelmingly supported by a majority of Michiganders, so that we can keep guns out of the hands of criminals and domestic abusers and prevent kids from getting their hands on guns at home. Protecting public safety is a team effort, as you can see, as evidenced here. We need police officers and local leaders and healthcare professionals and community members all to be a part of this to keep people safe. That's why earlier this year we took bipartisan action to fund community violence intervention programs, known as CVI programs, all across our state. They use early interventions, counseling, and community supports. These are strategies that are evidence-based and are focused on relationship building, conflict mitigation, and community-centered action. They're proven to reduce injuries and deaths in neighborhoods impacted by gun violence. And in addition to saving the toll of losing a loved one, these programs also helped restore a sense of safety, lower the massive economic cost of violence for local residents and for business owners. So as we look ahead, I look forward to working with my partners all across our state, but specifically in the Michigan legislature, to enact a budget that invests comprehensively in public safety. Since taking office, since I was first sworn in, not this past January, but 4.5 years ago, we've invested over $1 billion in public safety, improving resources and training for police officers at every level. We've boosted revenue sharing by 29%, delivering more resources directly to local governments to help them fund public safety efforts. And this year, my budget proposes $500 million more for public safety, including dedicated funding directly to local departments for the first time in state history, so that they can hire and train and retrain cops, firefighters, and EMTs, and upgrade public safety facilities and equipment. Together, we can build a safer, more just Michigan, where every child can go outside and play, go to a great school, and get on a path to a bright future, where everyone gets home at the end of the day, where we work together to make a real difference in people's lives. So with that, I want to say thank you and be happy to open it up for a few questions for me or anyone who's standing up here.
Do you support legislation that's been introduced to allow local governments to ban guns on property that they own or lease?
So I have not had an opportunity to really explore what is driving the legislation and what the impact would be. I am grateful that the legislature has sent me already 2 bills to help make our communities safer. They're working on the budget. The 3rd bill is coming with regard to extreme risk protection orders. But as far as this particular bill, I've yet to really kind of roll my sleeves up and make sure that I'm ready to give you an opinion on whether or not I would sign it, should it get passed and get to my desk the way it's been introduced.
We've heard how some of these bills that you're talking about now could prevent Sorry, we've seen how, or we've seen discussion on how these bills could prevent mass shooter incidents, specifically the ones that you just referenced. How could they have an impact in Detroit?
Well, I think I'll ask the chief or the mayor to come chat a little bit about what specifically it could mean for the city. All I can say is, as we watch these horrific events play out in this country every single day, Michigan is not immune. In fact, we've had a lot of pain. It plays out in communities every single day, not just in the mass events that garner the headlines on a campus or in a school system. And that's why I think being strategic and using evidence-based policies that will help keep people safe is really important. Michigan was a laggard up until I signed those first 2 bills, and the 3rd one will help get us back to where the majority of Michiganders expect us to be, to have some common sense gun safety measures. As we watch some of these things play out, whether it was a child who got a gun that was not secured at home and killed a number of their fellow students at Oxford High School, or it was someone who had a history of concerning behavior and a known use of firearms, who the police were not able to do anything about because we didn't have extreme risk protection orders. I think that these are just 2 salient examples that we saw play out in the state, but certainly, if the mayor or the chief wants to add a little bit more about what they mean for Detroit specifically, welcome you. All right.
Yes, I think, it's well understood that we use data to drive pretty much all of our policing decisions. And so, as the governor has indicated, we know what's trending. We see what's trending around the country, not just in the state of Michigan. And so any opportunity that we have to keep illegal guns out of the hands of people that shouldn't have them, whether they're mentally ill, whether it's children, this is an opportunity to do that. Looking down the road, our deployment, the mayor talked about earlier, I'm very happy that the mayor has given us the raises that we've gotten. It allows us to retain our own talent, but also bring some of our talent back. But going forward, we know that we're going to have our openings filled very soon. We'll be able to now deploy officers, more NPOs, our neighborhood police officers, giving our neighborhoods much more attention. And so you've got officers now that can do proactive policing as opposed to just responding from run to run. So there's a number of different opportunities. At the very basic level, it's just another tool for us to interact with our community. We've talked about it before. You're not going to arrest your way out of crime. We understand that. There are a lot of factors that impact someone's decision to commit a crime that go beyond just policing. But there's certainly some things with policing that we have to be very focused on to keep our community safe.
Hey, Chief. Can you tell us more about the source of these illegal guns? How are offenders coming into possession of firearms?
Well, if we had that one answer, I wouldn't be standing here. I'd be going out doing just that one thing. There are a number of different avenues that get illegal weapons into the hands of the wrong people. What we're focused on certainly is those areas that we contract, the narcotics trade, things such as that. We also have people who legally purchase a weapon, and then by some act, whether it's irresponsibly securing it, someone breaks in their home, someone breaks in their car. We've seen a number of people who are going to an event in our downtown area, for example, or club, and we've got metal detectors at the club entry point, so they make a decision to put the gun in a car. Well, if I know that, there are a lot of people that know that as well, and they sit and they watch that occur. Proactively, we put undercover officers out there to see that happen, and we've been successful in catching those folks who are watching those folks leave guns in the car. But that can't just be your strategy, right? It has to be a little bit more proactive and aggressive than that, because you can't rely on an undercover officer finding someone illegally depositing a weapon in a vehicle. So there's a number of different tracks with guns, narcotics trade, irresponsible gun ownership, where people come in contact with a weapon owned legally and then it falls into the wrong hands, and then our children. We saw yesterday, I think it was Melvindale, had a shootout with a bunch of young people. And I'm not just saying young people, but we all know that kids make mistakes when they get in groups, social media beefs and things such as that. They come in contact with weapons, and most of those weapons are not legally purchased. And if they are, the kids are getting them from adults who didn't secure them properly. So it's a very difficult problem to solve. We're up to the task, and we're doing everything that we possibly can. But when you see an Operation Safe Neighborhood collaboration like this, and it's another tool for us to put in our toolbox and deploy.
And then just to follow up on this program, so somebody that would qualify as a high-risk person that you would want to target with a compliance check, what does that kind of person look like? What are you guys looking for there?
Well, we know what the data says. We know that there are people who have had history of violence. We know that there are gangs and groups that are still connected, despite the fact that somebody's out on probation, they're still connected. And so what we look at when we're targeting the dismantling and the disruption of gang activity is those affiliations that can lead to criminal activity down the road. And then there's a track with that. There's weapons that generally come into play. We also know through our NIBIN technology, which is evidence-based, where we look at weapons that were used at shootings, and we draw that data and that evidence in to see how those weapons are connected. We're literally able to put a map out and see that this gun it started in this place with this person, it went to this person, and it ultimately ended up in the wrong hands. Some of those folks are connected to groups and gangs. Some of those folks are out on probation parole, and those are the high-risk people that we want to get in front of ahead of time before they make the poor decision to use that weapon. And when we do that, a lot of time, it's hard to measure something that doesn't happen, right? But we can look at the data and see that we have downturns in certain types of crimes, and we know the effectiveness of the programs that we're using based on that data.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good afternoon, Faraz Javed from Channel 7. So first question is, first of all, congratulations on the program. I was talking to some gun violence activists, and they commend the movement, but their concern is, how do we bridge the gap between the community and municipalities and address gun violence among children and teens?
So I think you probably know we're very excited to roll out Shot Stoppers, and Chief Bedison's team's wrapping up the last interviews today. We will select the partners before the end of May, get them up to City Council in June, and have them active in July. And we are going to pay the community activists best networked into these neighborhoods, into these groups, to engage. We had a case where we had an individual who had been shot in Greektown earlier this spring, was having a repass a few days later, and there was a shooting at that activity. It's the kind of thing that had we had what the governor calls CVIs, or Community Violence Intervention Teams there, they would have been on top of that. They would have been talking to the groups. They could have diffused that. And so we're going to see, starting July 1st, our CVI teams are going to be embedded in very defined neighborhoods. They're going to be measured on outcomes. And this is why I'm optimistic this summer. You got federal government, state government, county government, the courts, the city, and the most active community groups are all going to be on one strategy this summer. We're going to see if we can make a difference.
Thank you all. That was the time we have for questions. Thank you everyone for coming with us today.
All right.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
All right. You guys had 4 good weekends in a row.
I know, right?
You guys keep it up.
Yeah, thanks, Chief.